apologize, everyone. Mark, thank you for babysitting and bringing me into the fold. My bad. I do have my beer. I'm ready to hear about Alaska.
Yeah, is there any, I mean, let me just jump real quick. I know we have a couple of things coming up. We have the cleanup this weekend. I was mentioning to Beth when I first got on the email that was sent out about that, about, requesting volunteers. I looked at the analytics. We had 6 people actually click the link to find the Deep Brook kiosk. So that there are at least 6 people who are interested in finding out how to get there.
Okay. And I think I haven't clicked it, but I'll be there. I believe Neil's coming, Randy's coming, Joe's away. Who else?
I'll be there.
Bill's going to be there. Awesome. Good.
Yeah,
So-
I'll be there at least for a few hours in the morning.
Fabulous. Thank you.
What do we need to bring? I mean, we going into water or?
Well, the 3 things we're going to try to accomplish is we need to replace the plexiglass on the kiosk behind the church. I went and measured it today. I'll get it from Home Depot either tomorrow or Friday, and then take a look at what's in there. I'm sure some of it's dated and old, so I'll bring some stuff that can go in there. I cleaned up the one today at the bottom of Commerce Road. That one's done. And then we're going to do invasives around the plants on the root wad from last year that we didn't get to earlier in the spring, and then do some conifer revetment work above the root wad and possibly below the root wad, depending on how many people show up.
I mean, do we need like weed whackers or what exactly tools?
Yeah, I'll bring all that. I'll bring the weed whacker, because what we have to do is we have to do the second set of trees, which is by the S corner, not the one at the confluence of Deep Brook and the Putatuck. We have to do the other one. So I'll bring the weed whacker. I'll bring hand pruners.
The new little clippers you brought.
Yep, some new
Do you
loppers.
think we need the DR?
I don't know. It's a pain to get it in there. Trust me, that's not going to be fun getting back there. So I think if somebody goes in there and spends maybe, if they get like a 10 minutes head start with the trimmer, I think we'll be good.
I'll bring my weed whacker too. So to answer your question, Bill, we'll have tools. If anybody needs gloves, we'll have gloves. I'll buy some bug spray because I'm sure the mosquitoes are going to be out in force. We'll bring waters and some snacks.
All right. Do we need, what time are we meeting? Is it 10 or 11 or?
8:30.
8:30.
10 or 11.
8:30 at the kiosk, and then depending on how many people show up, we'll determine who's going where.
What's the address of the kiosk, Mike?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but
It's
Mark,
at the
do you
end of, it's
Yeah,
at the
so-
end of Old Farm Road, which is behind the Reed School, which is behind the, what is it, Park and Dog, Park and Bark or whatever. Yeah,
Farm Road, and what?
The dog park?
Farm Road, what town would it be in?
Newtown.
Newtown.
So just as an FYI, I put the link off of our website for the event. And then in that, if you go to that link, there's actually a Google Map button that you can click on, and it will pull up Google Maps.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and all the information is in there in terms of what we're trying to do. I know that there was a picture out there of the vandalism that we had on the kiosk on the north side of I-84, the one behind the church. Somebody spray painted it, and here are a couple other people coming in. So yeah, that needs to get fixed. And if you've ever looked at those kiosks when you're at the end of Commerce Street, or if you're over there on the other side, the stuff's just outdated. It still says we meet at the Myrie Brook Firehouse.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
that's old.
So there's that. And then as far as, that'll be kind of the first thing of this Trout Week. That's the last week of this month, right? It's the 25th through the 3rd
Correct.
Saturday,
of
right? Yeah.
October. So it's a full, week dedicated to just, doing all this kind of stuff. And then on the 3rd, we had actually talked about a Penfield Reef trip in the afternoon down in Fairfield. We've done that before. John Hildebrand typically leads those things, but he's not available this time. So we're going to have to tag team, with that. But I'll put an event up that describes what that's all about. I looked at, and I think, Neil and some others that are into that, and Mike, John, you as well, know about the tides and stuff, but it looks like low tide on Sunday, the October 3rd at, I think it's Black Rock Harbor, which is the nearest, monitoring
Yep.
for that, for that reef. Low tide, I think it's like 340 something maybe.
That's perfect tide.
So yeah, so if we meet at noon, we
Yeah.
follow it out, and then we fish till pretty much sunset and then come back.
Yeah.
High tide would be at like 9:50 or something like that. So I've got a draft of that event, and I want to get that posted probably within the next, well, what's today, Wednesday? So probably by the end of the week, I want to get that up, because that would put us, roughly 2 weeks out. No, not even. That'd put us 10 days out. So,
Yep.
So I'll get that up, and then of course our this is our first chapter meeting, but are we going to continue to do, Mike? Are we going to continue to do chapter meetings on the second Wednesday of the month until?
Well, I can't answer that to the general populace right now because the board has to make a decision on where we're going to meet. And depending on the venue, we may not be able to meet on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, but I think we'll have to have that decision as a board, but then we'll have to, if we have to do Zoom, we can pretty much do Zoom
Any night.
So
Correct.
So those are the things that are that just kind of the things that I had that I was working on over the last couple of weeks. I've been trying to get a little bit more familiar with some of the marketing aspects of our web capability, so that we can start to I don't know if anybody has visited the website, but I put a pop-up that was kind of it's called a promotional pop-up. It only shows up the first time you hit certain pages on our website, and then it'll disappear for like 30 days. It might come back if you don't visit for.
I thought it was great when I saw it.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to generate anything, but I'm learning slowly that there are some marketing tools that we can use to reach out to people who happen to land on our site. So
Just to throw one more thing in there. Oh, I'm sorry, Beth, go ahead.
I want to know why we see Bill Bennett's thumb.
Why
What?
was he-
oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that was his foot.
So I just
Sorry.
wanted to say one thing before we kick this over to John. There's an opening if we choose, and again, trying to do as many things during Trout Week as we can. Tuesday, the 28th, if anybody is interested in getting together, Reverie has very generously offered us space at their brewery to do a barflies. But we'd have to have enough people to make it worth the while. So, if anybody's interested, we can do it. If not, we don't have to like jam the week full of stuff. We're already having 2 events. So I just wanted to put that out there that it's available if anybody wants to do it.
I can always put it up there and see what happens.
Very true.
So I will just boom, barflies. And I'll work on it tomorrow.
Excellent.
Thank you.
What time would you suggest? we
Reverie
start
is in
that?
Fairfield Hills.
No, it's
Say again,
down by-
Kirsten?
Down by the Exit 10 diner. Down in that.
Oh, that's
general
right. Yeah,
area.
I asked the
On
same
Churchill
question last
Road.
meeting, and yeah,
Yeah, it's on
by
Churchill Road.
the railway bridge, right?
Yes.
Hey, Mike,
Yes,
what time should I
exactly.
say? 7:30?
Yeah.
All right, cool. After dinner. All right, barflies, Reverie. Okay. John Forlenzo, are you going to drive?
I can, as long as my share screen works, I will give it a whirl.
I'll make you a host. How's that sound?
Man,
Very important.
yeah, sounds important. I don't know if I can handle all the responsibility.
See if your screen share works, and I'll stay host so I can let people in as they come in.
Host disabled, participant screen sharing.
Oh, I gotta, whoops, I don't want to do that. Enable, how do I do that? Allow.
It's nice to see some new faces attending
No.
tonight, I gotta say.
Oh, no.
Harold, I think this is the first time I've seen you on a Zoom, unless I'm wrong.
This is my second meeting.
Okay, awesome. Welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry I was late, but we really do get our shit together relatively quick. This COVID has just been making things a little difficult for more than just me, I think.
Oh, multiple.
I have a quick question though. The
Sure.
work party on Saturday, how long does it go to?
As long as you can stay.
Because
We're gonna be there'll be people there from 8:30 till at least 12:30.
okay, we'll see if I can make it because I have a previous appointment till around 10:30.
Wonderful. If you can make it, great. If not, there'll be others.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, John, you
All right.
should be able to share now.
Clicking, sharing, boom. Does everybody see a PowerPoint presentation?
Well done.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to go into presentation mode.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Here we go. I know. I'm talking fancy, huh, Paul?
Yeah.
Exactly. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is John Forlenzo, and I'm the secretary on the board of CVTU. And I will be presenting to you tonight, fishing the North Fork Good News River in Alaska. I do have to say that what I'm presenting to you today was a trip of a lifetime for me. One of the most remote places that you can be in the United States. And, I'm just going to jump right into the presentation here because it was just an amazing, amazing experience. I was there with a bunch of great people and, it just made the event even better. So the outfit that I actually went with was called Wild River Guides. John Jinnison had done a presentation back in, I think, November of 2018 to talk about his guiding company that guides out in Alaska. And they guide from between August to July till about early September. And the moment I saw that trip, I said to myself, I want to do that. So obviously I was supposed to do it in 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. And finally, I made my way to Alaska and got to do this trip August of this year. Okay, so it's about mid-August is the trip. And we floated about 70 miles of the North Fork of the Good News River. You fished for Dolly, Varden, Arctic graylings, rainbows, cohos, and there's other fish in there as well. But really, really just an amazing, amazing experience. And really the premise of what you're fishing this week, and the fishing literally changes week to week in Alaska because summer in Alaska is so short that the fishing cycles happen very quickly. So in this particular cycle, you have the coho and the king salmon that are actually going upriver to spawn, and all the other fish are following the spawning salmon and eating the eggs. So we did a lot of bead fishing, but we also did some streamer fishing for some of the bigger coho salmon. Okay, so what you can see here, my letters are off a little bit, but we landed on a float plane up here in the upper right-hand corner of this Google map in one of those lakes there, which goes into the river. And we floated all the way down here to Good News Bay, which goes into Bristol Bay. Okay, and the difference between the dark green and the light green is I'll talk a little bit about that. On the next one is the Togiak Wildlife Refuge. Okay, and the Togiak Wildlife Refuge is about 4,100,000 square acres. Okay, it's massive. And the greatest part of this trip was the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service issues permits for guide companies to use this river, this Good News River. And we were the only guide company allowed on that river for the days that we were there. So August 11th through the 18th, we had the river basically to ourselves. You could have bumped into some Smith's Family Robinson people who want to try and do it on their own or something, but we ran into no one for exactly 5 days until we got out of the refuge. So it was a really unique experience to be really, really remote and really hear almost nothing. I mean, it was dead silence at times. It was absolutely amazing. And you weave yourself through the mountains. But I think the elevation of the lake that we landed on was only about 400 feet above sea level. So over 70 miles, we really only traversed about 400 feet in elevation. So there's no white water in this river, really. Maybe there's some spots that run a little bit faster than others, but it was really kind of a little bit more of a lazy river. So here's the Cessna that I flew out on, and it was a 4-seater Cessna. There was a second plane that was a Beaver that was a little bit bigger that can hold a little bit more gear and a little bit heavier people. And so this is where we flew out of. And this is the lake that we landed on when we arrived at the mouth of the river. And basically, they pull over to the side of the lake. You get all your gear out, you start blowing up rafts and getting all the gear ready and supplies. And this guide outfit has 4 rafts. So 4 guides, one guide per raft and 2 people per raft. So 8 people were on the trip with 4 guides, and each boat is really outfitted to be able to survive independently. So if for some reason we had to split up or we got split up, each boat with the 2 people on it could be self-sufficient. So the thought of this is really, really deep. And here's an interesting statistic that the lead guide told us. He said, anywhere in the continental United States, you can be dropped and you are never more than 27 miles away from a paved road. It might be a tough 27 miles to go up over a mountain or what have you, or through trees or whatever. But where we were over 200 miles from a paved road. So once you are dropped on this spot and you start going down the river, there's 2 ways to get off the river: continue traveling down the river or a medevac helicopter. Those are your 2 options out. So once you start this ride, you don't get off.
Did you have satellite phones, John? Is that
There
how
was yes, the guide had a satellite phone and actually a satellite texting system that he had on a separate phone. Okay. So yes, we did. That was the only communication you had with the outside world. There was no cell service for the entire trip.
So the irony of this here, John, is it's called the Good News River.
It is the Good News River. Exactly. There was nothing but good news. And so here you can see an example of the floats that we use, the rafts. And I don't know if you can see can you see my pointer?
Yes.
Yes.
You can. Okay. So here you're definitely buddy with your partner. Both of you sit on this thing for 7 to 8 hours a day, except for stopping for lunch and maybe pulling over to the side of the river for a moment or 2. But, and we would stop on gravel bars and fish from some gravel bars, but many, many hours of your fishing was done right here from the boat. If you were lucky, you got a left-handed partner. Not too many lefties, only 1 lefty on the trip. So you just switched halfway through the trip, if you were more comfortable casting one way or the other. But let me tell you, when you're on a float for 7 hours a day, at least, you learn how to backhand cast and everything pretty quickly. And the guides are there to help you. We were using, for the bead fishing, we were using 5 or 6 weight rods. And for the streamer fishing, we were using 8 or 9 weight rods. So basically the guide would say, oh, we're going to bead fish for a little while, hand you your bead rod, you'd bead fish. And then they'd be like, oh, here's some, pocket water for some coho salmon. They'd hand you your 8 weight, and then you'd do some streamer fishing.
Were you tight lining the beads, John, or were you fishing them under an indicator?
Fishing them under an indicator.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're rolling down the river, right? So we're constantly moving. And so, you would have to find that right setting depending on, what section of the river you were in. Was it a little deeper or a little shallower? And you were looking for the red salmon in the river that were spawning. And as soon as you saw those red river, hold on to your rod because you were going to get something.
Cool.
Here's an example of what the camp looked like. So 8 individual tents. The guides had their own tent, in the back, and they always were facing us and facing out so that they can see what's going on and take care of any problems that existed. But really, there's particular gravel bars that they camp on. So they've been doing this river for quite some years. But with COVID, they didn't camp the river last year or float the river last year. So some of the camping spots, actually the gravel bars had shifted and weren't suitable for camping anymore. So we had to find a couple new spots as well. So a little bit of an adventure as well.
Did they have single person tents because of COVID, or just for comfort for each person to have their own place?
Yeah, each person to have their own place. There was no COVID protocol in here whatsoever. And it was impossible too, because you're cooking for 12 people. Everything was buffet style, and let me tell you, these guys did a tremendous job on the food because we have no ice, there's no cooling or anything. So, we'd catch 1 or 2 coho that we're allowed to catch and eat for the trip. So usually dinner time was fish, but the mornings were, hot cereal, cold cereal, coffee, granola bars, nuts, cheese, and things like that. So it was, they did a really good job. You were never hungry. You were never hungry in this trip. And you can see over here in the back corner where they have the filtered water. So they go into the river, get the waters, goes through some big filters for our drinking water. So they definitely have it together. That's for sure. Here's day 1. This bear would not leave us alone. He was thankfully on the other side of the river. We yelled at him. We waved our arms at him. We banged oars in the water. He kept coming back, kept showing us his broadside, showing us who was boss. And finally, the guide felt that he needed to have his shotgun strapped to his shoulder. And the good news is that the air horn scared him away and he didn't come back. So that was the only problem bear that we had. All the other bears we saw basically running away, which is what you want to see. This bear was not afraid of us. And this was my day 1 experience of never having done something like this before. And I just said to myself, is it going to be like this every day? And it wasn't. But the interesting part is when you go to the latrine, you have to continue to sing to yourself and talk to yourself so bears don't come out of the woods and get startled. So you can never be quiet. You always should be with somebody. You should be making noise if you were by yourself. And the guides always wanted to know where you were and where you were going. I mean, they were really, really strict on safety. And the biggest reason is, 1, they didn't want anyone getting injured because, like I said, 2 ways out, finish the river or medevac helicopter, and these guys here. So now we start getting into a little bit of fish. So this is where the fun happened. And, the guides were fantastic. They tell you where the fish, they would point the boat in the right direction for you. I mean, they couldn't have been more accommodating, from a fishing perspective. And the interesting part, the mix of people were there. I'm 51 years old and I was the second youngest guy there. So our age ranges were between, like, there was one guy who was 30 all the way up to people who were 80. So the accommodations that this guiding service, provided was absolutely top notch for every skill level, for every age, it didn't matter. They took care of you. So here, in every one of these fish that I caught was a first. Okay, I never caught an Arctic char before. The only little side note that I'll tell you, and this is what I was told by some people who have done this trip before. The only problem you're going to have after this trip is you're going to be ruined, because you'll never experience fishing like this again in your life, unless you come back. So, and they were absolutely, correct in that statement. So one of the fish species, an Arctic char. This is a bead fish, so this is what you would target with a bead. And a lot of the fishing was bead fishing, except for the bigger coho salmon. And the fish, they would get a bit bigger than that, but you probably wouldn't catch one. This is where you'd use your 5 or 6 weight on a bead with the indicator. And, this is a decent size Arctic char. They would be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. So I'm going to call this a medium size Arctic char.
Nice coloration.
Beautiful. Everything is beautiful there. The colors of everything, the color of the water, the color of the landscape, just everything, the color of the rocks on the sandbars, just everything is just so beautiful.
John, what kind of a fight do they give? Are they really scrappy fighters, the Arctic char?
Yeah, no, most of the fish are pretty scrappy, that's for sure. But I'll get to that in a minute, Mike. I have a story around that. And I don't know if everyone will be surprised or not, but I'll get there in a minute.
Hey,
So
John,
here's
real quick,
something.
What
Sorry.
size? I mean, maybe you'll get to it. Like size of beads, like how far from the hook, all that stuff. How you peg it.
So
different size and all that.
Indicators were set at about maybe 3 to 4 feet, depending on which part of the river we were in. We were using between 8 and 10 millimeter beads. Orangey, reddish kind of bead color. I mean, I used the same bead and the same color like the entire trip and caught more fish than I've ever caught, like in my lifetime. And the hook, so there's actually a regulation, is that the hook cannot be greater than 2 inches below the bead. Okay. So you really didn't have a whole lot of flexibility in the bead hook combination. And we were using like number 2 hooks. So not 2-aught, but number 2s.
Okay. Still good size hooks. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? They also, you're using a little bit heavier of a rod, like a 6 weight rod, because they want you to get the fish in quickly. They want to get them into the net and they want to get them back into the water.
Were they soft beads or hard beads?
They were hard beads.
Okay. Yep.
They were hard beads. This is called a Dolly Varden Char. You can tell by the darker color, and just another, egg eater. So again, another bead fish. And in this particular instance, we had pulled over to the side to this gravel bar, and we were fishing the edge of the gravel bar here. And I would say in that location, I might have caught 30 fish in an hour and a half. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Every cast or every other cast, you were hooking something. And it was just, we hit that section of river and the fish were coming up that section of the river. And it was just the water. What you're really doing is you're fishing some of the slower waters as well, where the salmon come to lay their eggs and where they rest a little bit. So we just hit this one pocket that was just completely loaded with fish.
Like you said, you're spoiled now.
It's unbelievable. Now here was a beautiful rainbow trout. This was the favorite fish, not the biggest fish, but the favorite fish that I caught the entire trip. This rainbow trout ripped my drag, and they had our drag set tight because they want us to pull the fish in, get them in the nets. And we were fishing 12-pound fluoro on the beads and 15-pound on the streamers. So we were yanking fish in, right? But this rainbow trout fought like no rainbow trout that I've ever caught in my entire life. It was absolutely amazing. This was my favorite and best catch of the entire trip.
Mm.
And I think, yes, I caught this on a bead. We were going by some root wads, and it was kind of a 50-50 shot. Are you going to get stuck on the root wad, or are you going to catch a rainbow trout? And this time I caught a rainbow trout. So,
Hey, John,
yes.
how large of a coho run did you have on this river?
You
Was
know
it-
what?
I mean, what-
That's interesting because the cohos were, so as we got further down the river, there weren't that many coho upriver. We did a lot more bead fishing earlier on in the trip. And as we got down further to the slower, wider part of the river and the pocket waters, you can see in back of me, the river's very wide and very slow there. And that's where you would, look for the pockets that the coho would be in. They said admittedly that the coho run was a little bit slow for our trip. And they were expecting, actually, because they had been consistently floating this trip throughout, July and August, that they were expecting the next week for the coho to really move in. And it's a moving target, right? It's water temperatures, air temperatures, weather, all those types of things. The coho were a little bit late this year. So we caught coho, but, it wasn't, this is where we started throwing 8 and 9 weights and big Dolly Llama streamers and all sorts of crazy stuff that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
And, you're stripping in as fast as you can, pausing, strip fast, pause. And most of the time you get a hit on the pause, right?
Yeah.
So, but we were throwing some pretty big streamers. That's for sure. But yeah, this was probably one of the biggest fish that I had caught the entire week. That was probably, maybe a 26-inch coho.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
you know what I meant to say? It wasn't coho, sockeye. Was there a lot of sockeye in the river?
Most of the sockeye were red. Okay.
Yeah.
So they were going up, they were spawning, and in the guides, you could catch them, but they really encourage us not to stress the red fish, whether it was a king or a sockeye, just get the fish that are following them. Right. And inevitably you're going to get one that's going to, attack, because they don't feed anymore when they're spawning. Right. They're basically rotting away in front of you, spawning and then dying. They will go after your streamer, but as much as possible, I probably caught 2 or 3 because they attacked my streamer. But as much as possible, the guides encouraged us not to catch them.
Right.
So they were really, really environmentally conscious from that perspective.
So the only reason I was asking that is that, and I'll make this fast. They said an average run of the sockeye is between 20 and 23 million this time of year. And they said they've had, I was up there the week after, and they said there was over 60 million sockeye that come into all those rivers. And it was like you could walk on top of them. It was
you see them moving up the river. You see them in big pods. And again, all these fish are following them to eat the eggs.
Yeah.
And we go here. This was a pretty cool fish, a grayling. Never heard of it. Never seen one. The big dorsal fin and everything. And it's actually a smaller fish. So this is actually a good size grayling. They're actually a bit smaller of a fish, but still fun to catch again. So going back, on the, the coho, you're throwing the streamers at, and then you're, the bigger fish and the bigger salmon like that. And then here, you're back to your bead fishing. So as we got further down the river, you did less bead fishing and more streamer fishing.
Grayling are popular in the UK, big time.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Good, interesting fact to know, because I'd never heard of them. I'd never seen them. And it was interesting to catch all these different types of fish.
Yeah, they're considered like a game fish, like in the trout and salmon kind of fishing crowd.
Got it.
And in certain places, they eat dry flies like ridiculous.
Okay.
The only place I caught grayling in Montana in the Big Hole River, and I caught them 2 of the 3 times I was in Alaska. but
Got it.
in Montana, they ate dry flies like trout.
Very cool. And then getting towards the end of the presentation here, this is where we ended up the morning of our takeout. So basically we go down into this large area where the planes can land, where there's, only a little bit of current. We're only maybe a mile or so from that Good News Bay, and we pull everything out and deflate and get everything packed up and ready to load back up on the planes. This morning, you see it's a bit foggy, but on the clear days, it was foggy in the morning, and then it would burn off and it would be beautiful, full sun and everything. But most of the trip, so the last 2 days were sunny, but majority of the trip was cloudy and a little bit drizzly. And I found that I like the cloudy and drizzly better, because once the sun starts coming out, you start getting hot and you have all your layers on, and you don't know whether you should take it off or put it on, or, you don't want to start sweating. So the fishing was much, much better on cloudy days than the sunny days. And I think that also had a little bit to do with some of the fishing, is that I think some of the bigger streamers that were thrown at the fish were there. They weren't attacking. And I felt like we had much more success on the cloudy, drizzly days than the bright, sunny days. And I kind of have the same.
John,
Sorry?
did you throw flesh flies?
No, I don't remember throwing flesh flies. I'm trying to think. There was like 2 basic streamers that we were throwing. One was the Dolly llama, and the other one was I'm kicking myself in the head now because it completely fell out of my head. And it was like 2 different size and maybe 2 different colors. So, there was some black and whites, and some days black and white was working better. And then there was, pink and black or pink and white. And each day something different was working. So it literally changed day to day, and depending on what part of the river you were in. And, the guides helped you along, and they said, okay, give me your rod, bead fish for a minute. I'm going to tie on, your this other streamer. And then they'd hand the rod back to you, go into a pocket, and then say, throw it over in that corner and start stripping.
Did you fish with the same guide the whole trip, John?
No, we switched every day.
Okay.
So I got to fish, I think we missed getting in. It was supposed to be 8 days, but we couldn't go in day 1 because of weather. So we were postponed one day, and then we went in. So I got to fish with each guide twice, except for one guide. I only fished with once. But
How much of your own gear do you need to bring, or they provide everything right down to the tents? And
if you wanted to bring nothing but your clothes, you could do that. They definitely provide the tents, the sleeping bags, the mattresses that you sleep on. If you wanted them to provide all the rods for you, they'd provide the rods. You can literally go there with a suitcase. And actually one guy, he shipped his stuff out there and it didn't arrive.
Ooh.
Yeah. So at least he knew beforehand it wasn't going to get there, and he wound up having to repack and bring his seconds. And so that was a little interesting, but he survived.
Do they tier their pricing based on what gear you're bringing, or
No.
It's just whatever price is price, and that's firm?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Nope. There's one price, whether you brought nothing but your clothes, or, and used all their gear. No, it's all the same.
That's a nice option.
Yeah. They really made it easy, and they did a great job.
I could see myself doing this minus the fishing, just floating and camping.
Oh, the floating and camping, you could absolutely, and just, there was one guy there who was a big wildlife photographer, and I'm waiting for the Google Drive to be set up where everybody's going to upload all their pictures. But I mean, this guy took amazing pictures of eagles and fox and bears, and it was wild. Yeah,
I was
you don't have to
just
sit there and fish the
practicing.
entire day. You can,
Yeah.
a matter of fact, the guides told us, put your fishing pole down and look around because you don't, this is an experience that
Yeah.
not everybody gets to have, and you should, really take it in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you see wildlife other than bears? Did you see like any moose or anything or caribou or?
What was interesting is I was actually surprised at how, I guess you could say scarce the wildlife was. Lots of bears. You saw bears every day. Saw some bald eagles and fox and beavers. So there were some really, really big beavers there. Holy smokes. But besides that, yeah, there really wasn't, it's not, if you were going on a wildlife adventure, you might be a little disappointed.
Got it.
Did you see any seagulls on the water?
Not until we got further downstream. Once we left, I'll back up a little bit. Once we got out of this dark green into the lighter green,
Yeah.
and probably the day after we started seeing seagulls.
Oh, okay.
Little sky rats are everywhere, aren't they?
But they definitely weren't way up here
Okay.
at the start.
So what'd you do? 10 miles a day, John? Roughly?
About that, yeah. Some days were a little more, some days were a little less, depending on, where the camping spot. One day, because we had to make up a little bit of time, we were actually on the river for like 10 hours. It was a long day, to kind of make up for the one day that we missed. And to top it off, the gravel bar that they normally stopped at wasn't suitable anymore. So we had to keep going and probably added another, 45 minutes to the trip that day.
And did did you guys help break the camp down in the morning and set it up at night, or did the 4 guides do everything?
They pretty much did everything, but you know what? Everybody helped out. Everybody pitched in. Everybody would help unload the boats. Everybody helped get the gear situated, carry the boat up for the windscreen. Everybody pitched in. Nobody sat there and said, okay, these, wait on me like hand and foot or anything. Everybody there. I was the least experienced outdoorsman by far of anybody that I was with on that trip. People were backpackers and had been on adventures like this before and go and do their own adventures and stuff like that. So, they knew what was going on, and everybody, you just pitch in, you just do it.
Cool.
So, yeah. And that brings me to the end. So like I told you, it was really an experience of a lifetime. I loved it. I would absolutely do it again, and I will do it again one day. It's basically, I did a direct flight from Newark to Anchorage, which is going west, is over an 8-hour flight. And then I stayed overnight, got up the next morning, and then did a 1-hour flight from Anchorage to a little town called Dillingham. Then in Dillingham, we got picked up at the airport, which is basically a singular building. That is probably about as big as the Stony Hill Fire Department, where we used to have our meetings. And security is basically, wait here and we'll tell you when you can go over there. And it was compared to what we're used to in big city airports and everything like that, it was definitely an experience. And then you do that 1-hour flight to Dillingham, got picked up from the airport. They brought us to these 2 houses that they rent, and you get your gear prepped and you spread it all out, and they tell you, okay, because we were only allowed, they were really trying to get us to stay at 35 pounds of gear per person. Okay. So I was able to get to 33 pounds. Another guy that was, I was bunking with that night, he was at 34 pounds, and everybody was able to stay within that realm. And then you go to the airplane, and they've got a scale outside, and they weigh all the gear. And then the people who are going on the plane, they weigh them, and they make sure everything's, oh, hey, take that off. I need 50 pounds off that. Boom, take 50 pounds. All right, put everything in the plane. It's a bit of a production. It's not like it was really an experience. The whole trip was an experience. Getting there was an experience, watching how the bush pilots get you into the bush, was an experience. And, it was just the whole entire thing from beginning to end was one experience after another.
Hey, John,
Yes.
what does this cost? This type of trip?
This particular trip, just the trip, nothing else, was, I think, 51 or 5,200.
Okay.
So all in, you were at what, about 8 grand?
Yeah, so you figure 5,200, then you got to get to Alaska and Dillingham, and so that's probably another 1,000. So you're at 62, and then you have to stay a hotel a night here, a night there. So there's a few $100 there. So you're probably in it, $7,000, $7,500.
They do an all-inclusive option where they make your flight arrangements, they do everything for you, and you just show up at the airport and you're done?
No.
Components.
Yeah, the lead guy, John, he's really good. So he would send out periodic communications and he'd say, okay, everybody, book your flight to Anchorage, book your flight to Dillingham now, and he would just give, kind of step-by-step instructions, leading up to the event. And they make it pretty easy. Yeah, you still have to book your own flights and everything, but they really walk you through this whole thing.
Was it buggy?
It's buggy when there's no wind, and it's not buggy if there's a little breeze. So all you did is pray every day for a little breeze, and there were really no bugs. Towards the end of the trip, the weather actually got really nice and the wind completely stopped, and you had to contend with some bugs. The no-see-ums were really the worst that you had to contend with, especially you were a little bit exposed when you were on the latrine. Yeah, that was probably, yeah. But other than that, it really wasn't bad at all. I didn't need a mosquito net. You wore a buff, you pulled a buff up over your head and covered your neck and, minimized your exposure and everything. But it wasn't like, oh my God, the bugs are taking away from my experience. It wasn't like that at all. But we were also lucky in that the weather was a little cloudy and drizzly and a little bit breezy. And that little breeze was perfect.
Did they dig a latrine or did you just find a spot?
No, they dug latrines.
They dug a latrine each time?
Yep. And you burned all your toilet paper and everything. And, they were very into leaving no footsteps.
Leaving no trace.
Yeah.
Now, do they carry bear spray or do they strictly bring the shotgun?
So everybody is issued a can of bear spray, and you have to have your bear spray on you at all times.
I hike with it now too. I keep it on me all times now.
Yeah, exactly. This is standard issue in this whole thing, and you always have it on you.
Yeah. Even down here now you need it.
Yeah, exactly. I know my friend right here in Newtown had 2 big black bears in their backyard the other day, and
Station 10 feet off our back porch, there was a bear and 3 cubs.
Yeah, that you want to stay away from.
Yeah,
that was definitely something they reinforced was if you see cubs,
run.
Please back away.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
What was the like astronomy like? Did you see like more stars than you've ever seen in your life because there's no light pollution up there?
Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? Stop sharing. Click stop sharing so I can see everybody. So what was interesting is majority of the time it was cloudy.
Oh, right.
Except for the very end of the trip, right? And the yes, you were able to see it's almost, how you look up in the sky here and you can like see stars all over the place. There it's like a big mesh of solar systems and stars and everything because you can see so much more.
Must be incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in when I was in the Black Canyon of the Gunnison River. It got, we were there in the fall and it was dark by 7 o'clock, and it was so dark you could barely see your hand in front of you. But if you looked up, the amount of stars, it felt like you could just reach out and pull one down. That's how many there were. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And you had to get up it didn't get dark until after midnight before it was absolutely dark. It's like the slowest dusk you've ever experienced in your life, right? And then probably about 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, it would start getting light again. Okay. So if you wanted to get up and see those stars, you would have to, if you went to bed even at 11, you have to wake up at like 2 in the morning, really poke your head out of the tent and take a look around.
Got it.
So, and we were losing 7 minutes of daylight every day we were on this trip.
What was the daytime high and the nighttime low? Was it a big difference?
So nighttime would be anywhere between, on the cloudy days, it would be high 30s, low 40s in the morning. On the clear nights, it would drop below and we'd get frost. Okay. Wow. So that was only the last night or two. So it's technically, the week I was there, they call that fall. And it's not summer in Alaska anymore. It's fall in Alaska. And then during the day, it was low 50s to upper 50s. And if the sun came out, it would be, maybe 60 to 64 degrees. So you were bundled up most of the time, and you're on the water, and the water's only 52 degrees or so. So, it was a little breeze blowing across 52-degree water. And, it was, I had probably at least four layers on most of the time, plus the waders.
John, what did you learn from the trip that you would do maybe different? Like if you went back again?
Ooh, what would I do differently?
If anything, maybe not. But.
Man, they've really guided you through. I probably brought too much stuff with me, so I wound up leaving a lot of stuff behind because I had never done it before. So I figured I would at least let them go through and tell me what to keep and what to take and what not to take. But other than that, Neil, I followed their direction, and really it was nearly perfect.
Did they have name brand like rods and reels? Like, were they Sages or were they?
Sages and Orvis and stuff
so they
like
had quality tackle.
They did. And the one thing that you got yelled at for two things. And I'm not calling it like yelling at you, but that, maybe a stern talking to. One was if you didn't get in and out of the boat by swinging both your feet out, they would yell at you because they don't want you getting out 1 foot at a time, twisting an ankle, or the boat floating away from you and you falling in, because getting wet was the biggest thing that they were trying to avoid. They didn't want anyone wet. Okay. And then let's see, what was the second thing? Just fell out of my head. What was your question again, Mike? Tell me.
I asked you about the quality of the tackle.
The tackle. The one thing that they also yelled at you for was if you moved your hand above your top cork grip, they would yell at you because they said, we don't want people snapping rods. And if you reach up to get a little bit of leverage on the fish and you grab your rod higher, boom, they said you will automatically snap your rod. So if they saw you touching or reaching above your top grip, they would actually yell at you. Let go of your rod. Let go of your rod. Let the fish run. Let go of your rod. And they were just trying to avoid people having a bunch of snapped rods and running out of gear and stuff like that.
Did the rods have a bunch of white paint above the grip?
They did not. They probably should have had like little spikes coming out of it or whatever. But yeah, a couple people broke their rods because they grabbed them in the wrong spot on bigger fish. Even that I never knew. I never knew that. So.
Well, that would have been me.
Wow, look
But
how
yeah.
nice John Hildebrand cleans up. Holy smoke.
Doesn't he look handsome?
I have to go in a minute. I have my next set of parents coming in here. So
Oh man, look at this guy. Tie on and everything.
a bit of a break, so it's kind of
Not
nice.
bad, buddy.
You know.
So cute, so cute.
There you go.
So, hey, I put a link to the website for the guide service. So if you're interested, go. I haven't found a John Folenza picture yet, but their gallery.
Yeah, they didn't post anything yet because they literally just got off the river about a week and a half ago or so. And they had to kind of store all their gear and everything like that, which is why I wish I had a few more pictures, because I just had some of the pictures that I took, but I know some of the pictures that other people took were
I
absolutely.
know somebody asked about food on their website. You can see where they're making fresh sushi.
Yes, that was I think the last night they actually made sushi. They
Really?
had the sushi rolls, everything, rice, cooked up rice, did everything and made sushi. I mean, these guys have their stuff down.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. The whole experience was awesome. The food was awesome. Because the one thing is I'm not a big guy, but I like to eat a lot and I eat all day. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be damn hungry on this trip and I'm going to be cranky and everything. No, you were never hungry. Plus, you were so occupied with catching fish, you didn't have time to think about being hungry.
Did you go with any of your friends, or were you just like one guy out of 8? You didn't know anybody when you got there?
Yeah, no, I went by myself. A friend of mine, actually, there was one seat open, and that was supposed to be a friend of mine who was supposed to come, but he had just bought a restaurant and he couldn't leave. So they had to actually fill that seat. So yeah, I was on my own and just met a bunch of great people.
Yeah.
Did they talk much about Bristol Bay and the Pebble Mine and all that kind of stuff?
It was definitely there were some topics of conversation and things of that nature. And they talked really about, okay, it's stopped for now. And especially the lead guy, John, he says, he goes, we're never going to stop it forever. He said, but eventually one day someone's going to be able to mine that. He said, but one, can we stop it for now? Yes. But two, it's really the whole environmental mitigation aspect of it that nobody has really come up with a good enough plan that would even constitute, not fighting it.
Well, I think currently what they're looking for is permanent status of it not ever being able to be mined.
Yeah.
We'll
yes.
see.
And I know that they're working towards that. And, but from a political standpoint, it's something that can be done politically, but anybody could come in behind them and undo that. So
Did they appreciate the work that's being done?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we had, I don't remember the lady's name, but we had, she had done a presentation from Alaska on
Megan Barker.
Bay. Megan Parker. Yes. So she's good friends with John Jinnison, who's the head guide on Wild River Guides. And so he knows as much on that topic as anybody. So I can't speak to it as well as he could, but they're just, doing as much as they can to keep shovels from going in the ground as long as they can.
Would the group be interested in hearing from her again with an update as to what's happened since the last time she spoke to us at one of our meetings? I got 1, 2, couple, 3, 4.
Sure. I mean, if you reached out to her and said, hey, is there, significant change in what's been going on? And we know that, the permitting was denied and stuff, and she has enough content, it would be awesome to hear.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her again. She was very, very easy to get a hold of. I'll make myself a note and I will see what we can do then.
Cool. Thanks everybody for the questions. Really good questions. I hope I was able to answer them to your satisfaction, but I just have to leave this presentation and tell you that it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Yeah, good job.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you
John.
very much, dude. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm recording this and, you know, when we're done here, I will put it up on the YouTube channel and post it to Facebook and the website.
So before everybody exits, just because Mark and I have been trying to come up with the best way to do this and kind of paying attention to the populace that we have, most of them, you know, like John just said, he's 51. He's probably one of the youngest people in the crew here. Is anybody ready to go back to a in-person meeting, or is the Zoom the way you'd like to see it go for the foreseeable future?
Well, I know that in Connecticut, I believe if we do meet in person under the current guidelines, we all have to be masked up. I'm not sure about the whole social distancing thing. So logistically, I'm not sure how it would work.
Yeah, there is no social distancing. They're really only
beer and a quesadilla. You know, we gotta have our masks on, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's what, you know, basically it's pretty basic right now. There's indoor mask mandates. There's no real occupancy limitations or anything like that. It's, you know, if you're inside, you're supposed to be wearing your mask unless you're eating or drinking. And, you know, it's pretty basic. If you're outside, there's no mandate. So it's pretty straightforward now, but you know, it just,
I think there's probably a bit of a comfort issue. I know when I'm interacting with in businesses, you know, that I walk into a business, even my doctor's office. I walk into my doctor's office and the guy looks at me, goes, "You vaccinated?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Take your mask off." So it's you know, there's I don't know. It's I went to another business today where same thing. You know, no need to wear a mask. Nobody was wearing masks. It's, you know, it's a hard thing to gauge, Mike, you know, and I think if we were to put something out there, maybe a survey or something, and see if we could get any, you know, an anonymous survey to see what we could get in terms of a response.
And I'm
that's a good idea, Mark.
I didn't bring it up to make anybody feel uncomfortable. It's just, you know, this is your chapter.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to feel comfortable, but I also don't want to lose, you know, the momentum that we built before COVID was really great. We have one of the largest chapters in the state of Connecticut. We've been recognized nationally for the things that we've been doing and how we interact with our people. So, you know, Mark and I are just trying, the whole board, I'm sorry, is doing everything that we can to try to keep the momentum that we have, keep our conservation work going. So, you know, I've always been one to put it out there and ask for help trying to get it to where we need it to be. That was the reason that I brought it up. But maybe
why can't we do a combo? Why can't we have a meeting and then be able to do a Zoom at the same time? I mean, technology is there.
The technology, we certainly have that technology. We have if we're in the right location with a solid internet connection, we have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It would be, you know, it takes some doing, but we can manage it.
And I think Dave, to answer your question or to expound on what Mark was just saying, it would be the type of a thing where we would be able to broadcast it, but we wouldn't like really have a moderator like we do now. Just whoever was there would just be able to witness what everybody else was witnessing, type of a thing.
Mhm.
But again, better than, that's why I'm saying I wouldn't want to do one or the other and exclude anybody who didn't feel like getting to an actual place where we were all meeting. Because it's about getting as many people as possible, not limiting the amount of people that we're doing. So that would be, I think, something we would be able to figure out.
Kind of like hybrid learning.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we'll have John run the meeting.
With his tie on.
There we go. There you go.
I have a question about some local fishing. I was wanting to pick some people's brains.
Go.
I work up in Bantam now, and I have been driving the back roads like you do. Has anyone fished the Bantam River off Romford Road or the Shepog? Sort of, yeah. Well, I've heard things. So
The River S.
The River S. We can, yeah, we can
Dave
talk to you.
Sawicki, Dave Sawicki, when I was nymphing with him, I mentioned the Shepog, and I said, "Oh, you know, you can fish in Steep Rock." He's like, "Oh no, when we go much further north." And then I get a job in Bantam, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, I think I'm up in Dave Sawicki Shepog River country." So, I mean, can you just, is there anywhere up there that you like that is club property that I can't fish, or is it all game?
I know parts of Hidden Valley on Chippewa belong to the Washington Rod and Gun Club.
Right.
Signs
Yeah.
up there that you can only fish. You have to be a member to fish that. I know
There's, I
that.
think it's marked on both of the Steep Rock and the Hidden Valley maps.
Yes.
But what I will tell you is they can't legally keep you from fishing there.
No, but there is signage everywhere.
There's signage, but they can't keep you from fishing there.
I'm actually talking further north of there, though.
Yeah, well, all the
Yeah.
way up to where the Chippewa is in the confluence with the Bantam River. From there down, you can fish.
Yeah.
And you can look, I've never fished at Kirsten, but I've walked it. And if you look at the Connecticut stocking map, they show you exactly where they put fishing.
Right.
Yeah, they
So
actually
you'll-
put fish right by my office.
Yeah, I would, you
There
know,
you go.
Give me
I would-
the address to
That
your
is-
office.
But it's
Michael, take me to lunch.
you know, it's like open, wide water. They stock it. The fish are not going to stay around.
no, and then they'll get, it's put and take too. So you get,
Oh,
all-
they're gonna get washed over the dam behind the bakery. But that river is not like, if you get off 202 and drive down towards oh god, I can't remember the name of the private school, but if you drive the Shepog and the Bantam, it, like in the storm, it was like class 3 or 4 rapids. It was serious. Like I thought it was going to be a little stream, and even when
No,
it's not high, it's a very gnarly technical stream, very rocky, but looks very fishy too. So
It gets a lot of fish in the spring, and it fishes well through until the warm months come. It does have some holdover possibilities, and then I guess in the fall it kicks in again. But my cousin grew up in Woodbury, so I'll get you some spots that I mean, he fished it his whole life, but I'll get some spots and some road crossings that would hopefully be helpful to you.
cool.
Have you
Thanks.
fished at Hodge Park?
I don't know where that is.
I believe it's along 67. The river, the road runs right along the river to up to Roxbury. And I was just scouting it, and it's a wide open, very flat. It looks like a beautiful place for dry fly fishing. But I didn't try it. I was just kind of scouting around. Also, I think it's Wellard Bridge Road
Miller's Bridge.
at 67. There's a place to get down there, and it looks pretty fishy. There's riffles, and then there's a really deep hole that people must fish in there, because I saw a lot of monofilament line in the trees. So
Worm
it's
container.
a place to fish.
Kirsten, talk to my dad about that. He fishes the Chippewa.
Okay, I know they stock right where you were talking above Wellerbrook Road.
Weller's Bridge.
This Weller's
Weller's
Bridge.
Bridge.
Sorry. They stock sort of just north of there, but I'm even like further north again. But
Well,
yeah, I'm
so
sort of the Bantam down to where it meets the
The
Shepard.
Bantam, I was going to say the Bantam River outflow used to be a trout management area or fly fishing only. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And they do stock it supposedly, but I tried it last year and it was very slow. So I think I heard it got poached a lot. But
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
close.
it's
That's
a
close
stock
to my
area.
office.
The outflow, right?
Yeah, the outflow actually goes out behind the office, where it's kind of wide, and I doubt there's many fish there, many trout there for sure. But then below the bakery, it gets super rocky and it's almost in a gorge, and then it turns south and that's where they start stocking it.
Kirsten, is this right in the town of Bantam you're working?
Yeah.
All right, that's critical information to give to my cousin.
I'm working in an old, the building is an old batting cage business that went out of business.
Okay, I'll be happy to reach out to him and see what I can find out for you.
I mean, I figured I would start, I mean, I've checked it out and I've stopped at all the bridges and it looks very fishy, but there's a lot of river there. So I'm like, probably like I would go to where the Bantam runs into the Shepog or find some other side streams. Yeah, there's like miles of fishing there.
It's real pretty in there too. It's a beautiful.
Yeah,
got
you're
some
like
beautiful
way
gorge.
away. Yeah.
Yeah. It did see a lot of pressure in the last 2 years. There's a lot more people fishing it.
Darn.
Unfortunately, COVID really took a toll on the Chippewa River, at least the area that a lot of us fish. I
Saw
was
a lot
there
of
one day.
poachers.
Yeah, we were there one day and there were guys walking out with a garbage bag full of trout. It was horrible.
What area is that? Are you willing to tell me?
Yeah, no, it's above
Below-
Bee Brook.
Yeah, that's actually.
Oh, above Beebrook Road?
Yeah.
You're up in Hidden
Yeah.
Valley, up near
Yeah.
Chappaqua.
Oh yeah, that's Hidden Valley. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a walk, and you have to really you got to plan on spending a day in there. Like if we go in there, we always bring lunch and whatnot. But most of the time, there was never anybody in there. But Neil, were you with me the day that we were there when we saw the guys, or was that I was with it? Was I with Dave? I think I might have been with Dave.
No,
but it
with
was
the garbage
literally
bags. Yeah,
the garbage bag day. Were you with us that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was
was-
horrible.
It was sad.
Yeah,
Because
it
the fish you get out of there are quality wild browns. I
Yeah.
mean, very beautiful browns. I'll send you some pictures. They're just, yeah, they're just gorgeous fish.
So hopefully with the weather that we had this year and all of the high water, maybe not a lot of people went in there because they definitely needed an opportunity to kind of regroup after the beating it took last summer for sure. I didn't even go there once this year, Kirsten, because of what we saw last year when we were there. But
Yeah.
we'll take you on a little field trip over there and share the spot with you.
Cool. Excellent. I knew somebody would know something.
You're asking the right group. I'll
And then
probably get
also,
shot when this is over for sharing so much information, but hey, I gotta do my job.
No, when I find some places up there, I'll be happy to share them too.
Sure. Has anybody fished the Housatonic at all?
No, but I went there. I sent you the video of what I saw.
Well, yeah, that was nuts. That was nuts.
Randy and I fished it yesterday, and then Randy fished it again today with Doug Peterson.
Oh, that's right. You fished from the boat. I forgot that. What was the water level last 2 days?
800.
Oh, so it's getting fishable then for sure.
Yeah.
800 to 700 something today.
How'd you guys do?
We caught a few fish. It was not real fast, but Doug picked up some nice rainbows, and we were very monogamous. He caught rainbows, I caught browns, and we nymphed most of the time. We saw another guide on the river with his client, but I don't think it was going too well in that boat. But anyhow, we picked up some nice smallies and a few of the Housatonic River tarpon.
I should show. I'll share my screen and show you guys the first fish of the day yesterday. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
Oh, the Housatonic bonefish.
Yeah.
Was there any dry fly action either day, you guys?
No, but the blue wing olives are coming off.
They were. Wow, nice sucker.
Happy with this whole-
You don't reckon that's a Housatonic bonefish. What do you mean, man?
That's a beautiful fish.
Dry fly?
Mark, I'll bet you thought you had a huge brown on.
I thought I didn't know what I had. It was.
Yeah.
I think my first thing out of my mouth was, "Oh, got a carp."
Yeah.
Crazy. It was.
Yeah, so I would say we had fairly steady action, but this morning it was a lot slower, and Mark Macbeth's honey hole for smallmouth didn't produce
It
anything.
didn't.
No.
Dear Lord.
No. He fished it out yesterday because he put a curse on it. He says, next cast, I'll have another.
Oh, that's right. I guaranteed it. And oh god, I guaranteed it. I caught
Kind
like
of
4 in a row, and then
You should know better than to piss off the fish gods, Mark.
I know. Here's Randy's double though. He caught 2 smallies. What was that, like right above the
Yeah, right
covered
above
bridge?
the covered bridge.
Nice.
And that one, the bigger one is probably, you know, a 2-pounder or so. And that was quite a battle too.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how I foul hooked it because it kept splashing, but my the pull of the line was in a different direction, and it was the smaller one getting dragged around. He was coming to the surface, and the big one was going to the bottom, and they were it's like catching what are those called, bluefish, when you have an umbrella rig, you know, and you got about a dozen of them on the. So anyhow, we had today we had a little rain, and after the rain, it kind of slowed things down. The bite was not the same, but it's the trout are on the upper portion above cellar hole and above.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting excited about blue-winged olive fishing in the early part of October because it can be spectacular up
what was
there.
that yesterday about 1 o'clock? We were in Garbage Hole having lunch, and we saw a cloud of blue-winged olives flying upstream.
Yeah, they were coming off all afternoon today.
But nothing was on them yet?
Nope.
Nope. Well, we saw one fish in the hole just up from the big hole above the covered bridge, and we saw one fish there come up like 3 times in a row, and but that was it. We guessed it may have been hitting ants or something like that.
So maybe the hatch is just starting and they're not keyed in on them yet, but that can be an incredible fishery with blue-winged olives in the afternoon.
I bet another couple weeks it'll be prime.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. There was a couple of guys we passed at like Coffin Hole or somewhere like that between Carsbrook and that said they had landed one and picked up another one on a dry. But
Awesome.
yeah.
Cool.
But the water's flowing still pretty good. So there's a lot of strong current. And the holes have changed up a little bit too with the heavy water.
Yeah, a lot of tree movement.
Yeah, I pulled up a piece of wood today that was big as your arm. And
North American stickfish.
Yeah, well, if you want to do driftwood sculpture, it would have been a good piece.
There you go.
All right.
They had 2 good days.
Well, thank you everybody for attending tonight. We'll keep efforting getting speakers and zooming and see if we can put something together for an in-person /Zoom meeting in October.
And look for some more activity on the website and Facebook regarding, barflies, the Penfield trip, that kind of stuff.
Hey, Mark,
All right.
appreciate you recording this. And if we do Zoom, I think recording it and having a little tutorial on how to have people view our meetings would be helpful for those who want to tune in afterwards.
Okay.
Sounds great.
All right, be well, guys.
Well, peace to everybody, and we'll see whoever we see come Saturday. Harold, if you can make it, great, but if you can't, don't sweat it.
All right.
Good night, folks.
Night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Be well, people.